I am Terry Fuglem, Associate Professor in the Faculty of Architecture at the University of Manitoba, and I am honored to be reading this citation today. The highest honor the Senate of a university can confer upon an individual is an honorary doctorate. At the University of Manitoba, the criteria includes distinguished achievement in scholarship, the arts, or public service. Our honorary graduate this morning is Mr. Richard G. Henriquez. To say that a building is merely a structure is to overlook its potential for beauty and for meaning. Renowned architect Mr. Henriquez believes that a building should convey the unique nature of the space it occupies, the layers of history that lay beneath the surface, and the experiences still to come. Inspired by this belief, he has shaped the character of his adopted city of Vancouver and created some of the most influential architecture in Canada. Mr. Henriquez has been creating beautiful forms since he was a boy in Kingston, Jamaica. His family has lived on the island since the late 1600s, most earning their living as merchants and plantation owners. But this boy had other ideas. He enjoyed making things, like the sculptures he carved from the local limestone. Years later, when his older cousin left Jamaica to study here at the University of Manitoba, young Richard was eager to follow and enroll in architecture. When he arrived, a new world opened up. Despite almost failing the first year, thanks to his preoccupation with playing bridge, he soon became a star student and would go on to MIT, where he received a Master of Architecture specializing in urban design. By the late 70s, he had opened up his own practice in Vancouver. He was driven to connect ideas of history and memory to his designs. He became a storyteller, using the language of architecture to spin his tales. The best-known example of this poetic touch is the oak tree growing from the highest floor of the Eugenia Place Tower. It stands as a metaphor for the mighty cedars and Douglas fir that once covered the site, and it has made the building the most photographed in Vancouver's West End. This is just one of Henriquez's high-rises that have had a major influence on the development of a concept known as Vancouverism, what we know as urban design to create livable neighborhoods, and what many consider to be the ideal solution to high-density development. The first of Mr. Henriquez's high-rises, the Sylvia, is considered to be one of the most influential Canadian buildings of the 20th century. Its slim, thoughtful design helped overcome public opposition to West Vancouver towers, clearing the way for them to become a defining characteristic of the city skyline. Today, Mr. Henriquez continues to build public understanding of urban design issues. He is the driving force behind a public engagement organization called the Vancouver Urbanarium Society. As an accomplished artist, Mr. Henriquez continues to blur the lines between art and architecture in new and innovative ways. He says there is one important difference between the two. Creating art is like being a music composer with control over every aspect of the work. Creating architecture, on the other hand, is more like being a conductor, leading the orchestra, but relying on hundreds of people to hit the right notes. If that's the case, Mr. Henriquez has been the maestro of some of the most memorable and influential symphonies in the architectural world. Mr. Chancellor, it is an honor for me to ask on behalf of the Senate of the University of Manitoba that you confer on Mr. Richard G. Henriquez the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chancellor of this university, I admit you to the degree Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges thereto appertaining. Congratulations, Dr. Henriquez.
Lieutenant Governor, former Premier, Chancellor Sector, President Bernard, members of the Board of Governors, members of the faculty, honored guests, graduates, family and friends. My warmest congratulations to the class of 2018 in the faculties of Graduate Studies, Architecture, and Engineering. I am extraordinarily honored and pleased to share this special occasion with you, your family, and friends. My sincere thanks to the people that nominated me and to the university for conferring this honor. Graduates, I'm sure that every one of you has a unique and fascinating personal story. I suspect more than a few of these include ancestral belonging to Canada or immigration from foreign lands. All of these stories, I'm sure, involves hard work and sacrifice on the part of yourselves and your families. All of you must realize, though, that how fortunate you are to be living in this amazing country, and secondly, to have received the education you have from this great university. I can guarantee you that these two advantages alone will allow you to have a more fulfilling future than the vast majority of people on the planet. The University of Manitoba holds a very special place in my heart from both a personal and professional point of view. Having left Jamaica at the age of 17, I came to Winnipeg, where I had my first exciting encounter with snow. After the initial excitement had worn off, and I realized how brutal the climate was, I went on to spend, believe it or not, 6 of the happiest years of my life in this city, at this university. I had amazing teachers who helped me acquire first-rate education in architecture. I got involved with many extracurricular activities. We heard about the bridge, but I also played tennis and soccer, got involved in Beaux-Arts balls, target shooting, varsity varieties, poster competitions, volunteering at the community center, the Jewish Community Center downtown, as well as embarking on my first political effort, running for senior stick of the Students' Architectural Society. To give you an idea of how astute I was as a politician, my strategy was to have shortbread cookies baked and handed out with a letter R on them, and I thought people would vote for me because of that. My competitor, who ultimately won, was in charge of Freshie Week and met all of the freshmen that went into the faculty, and he beat me like 4-1. But the technical skills I acquired, though, as well as the ability to solve complex problems and think creatively, and it enabled me to gain entrance to the master's program at MIT and an education that has stood me in good stead over the 5 decades of my career. As has been mentioned, I was born and grew up in Jamaica in a large extended family. When I was 10 years old, I decided to be an architect. My granduncle, my role model, was an architect, sculptor, painter, engineer, and my hero. He would take me to see buildings he had designed that were under construction. I decided that he would teach me to be an architect before I really knew what architects did. He died before I left high school, but his son, my older cousin Morris, came up to this university to study architecture, and I followed him 2 years later. I never found out who the first Jamaican was to come to this university, but every year there was a group that came by word of mouth, and I'm interested to know how many in the audience are from Jamaica. Show of hands. Wow. It was here at this university that I fell madly in love with an amazing lady who I married in the 3rd year of architecture school. My wife, Carol, is down there, who graduated in social work, has supported me for the past 56 years in every possible way. While I finished university, she worked as a social worker on Jarvis Avenue, and later for a year in my office in Vancouver. She took the major role in bringing up our children, while I concentrated on developing a practice, before embarking on her own amazingly successful career as a founder and director of Arts Umbrella, a visual and performing arts school for children and youth in Vancouver. 49 years ago, I started a community-oriented architecture firm while teaching part-time at the University of British Columbia and sitting on a number of planning and heritage committees. I didn't expect quick success, which was just as well, as it took me 9 years to make as much money as I was making when I quit my job. With perseverance, though, the practice has grown to 80 people today, contributing to the development of the city in a number of ways. Our son Gregory, who was born in Winnipeg when I was still in school, became an architect. 30 years ago, he came back to join me in the practice and is now managing the office and directing some of the most challenging work that we are doing. And his son is studying to be an architect in Toronto, making him the 5th generation in the family when he graduates. In 1964, when I graduated, the population of the world was 3.3 billion people. Today, it is 7.6 billion people. Failing a worldwide calamity, the population of the world is projected to reach almost 10 billion by 2050. In addition, we are facing colossal and growing challenges in terms of climate change, environmental and social disruptions, and war. As graduates in engineering and architecture, you have an enormous job ahead of you in designing for this increased population. This will be extraordinarily important work in building at a density and with environmental sensitivity that is unprecedented if it is to ensure the survival of us all. The sheer volume of building and infrastructure will mean that you will probably be working in expanding cities, as over 80% of the people of the world will be at that time. Growing cities offers many opportunities for architects and engineers to use their skills. They also, though, offer you opportunities to become involved in community initiatives and the arts that are not directly related to your profession. I hope that the new environmental and economic imperatives in the future will encourage you to focus more of your energy away from the production of objects of consumption that are hard on the environment towards cultural and recreational pursuits that emphasize the arts and the building of community. There needs to be a balance between work and life and the maintenance of a strong family and community-based support system. So, Take the time to nurture your body and your spirit and to maintain a support network of people who will all surely need. We all absolutely need people who can mentor us, love us, and who are committed to our survival as human beings. I am confident that with the education that you have received at this university, you will rise to this challenge with integrity, creativity, intelligence, and passion. Graduates, I wish you on this exciting day good health and continued success. And once again, thanks to the university for this great honor. Thank you.